Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable podcast, where we sit down with some of the most successful real estate agents, brokers, and team leaders to learn about their journeys in this industry. I'm your host, Art Bettuzzi, and as a seasoned real estate agent of 29 years, I'm always fascinated by the stories of how others found success in this business. On this podcast, we'll be talking to our guests about the obstacles they overcame, the lessons they learned, and the tips and strategies they're using in today's ever-changing market. Whether you're a real estate agent, broker, team leader, investor, or just someone interested in real estate, you're in the right place. Our guests come from a variety of backgrounds, and they all have unique insights to share. We want to have fun with these interviews, but we also want to make sure that you come away with actionable tips that you can implement in your own business. New episodes will be released weekly, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us on the Real Estate Roundtable podcast. Let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Art Bettuzzi. Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I am joined today by a former student of mine, actually a student that was probably within the first year and a half that I was teaching real estate. And I have a very clear memory of her because we got into sort of an argument in class, just a little bit of an argument, because I was talking about an exclusive agency agreement, which is one of the three main listing agreements that you learn about in pre-license school, right? And it's actually one of the things I think that people can use when they actually get into the business. And my guest today, Maria, she's like, well, raises her hand, and I'm like, yeah, because I was very disparaging of using an exclusive agency agreement because I said it gives the seller the opportunity not to pay you. And she raises her hand, and I'm like, yes, Maria. And she's like, this is the only listing agreement that me, and at that time, her boyfriend, Joe, use when we list properties. And what you're going to find out about Maria and Joe is that they have done a lot of flips, and we're going to talk about that. But when I said to her, why, I don't understand why, she goes, because me and Joe, we talk about our properties more than that realtor does, and so why should they get paid, right? So, I mean, I guess I tried to argue with you a little bit there, but I did say to you, yeah, you're going to learn when you get this license, sister. Mm-hmm. And she did. I think I'll let her tell you in just a minute about how she learned why she doesn't want to use an exclusive agency agreement. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Maria Rodriguez DiGioia, who is, hi, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for the invite.
Of course, you know you're one of my favorite people in real estate. And and certainly, you know, us getting off on that foot, you know, where we were like, yeah, I don't think you should use it. And you said, yeah, I always use it. And then if you remember, it was a little bit funny because I was teaching in an office where you joined. Right. And if you remember, they had a glass box for where I was teaching the conference room. And one day on the screen, I had the exclusive agency slide up, and Maria walks into the office, and I see her. And now this is, yeah, I did.
Or something like that.
I did. I said, come here. And this is about 3 months after you got your license. Mm-hmm. And so I said, come here. And you're like, yeah. I said, everyone, this is Maria. Maria, look what I'm teaching here, the exclusive agency agreement. I said, now, you guys, Maria says she and Joe always use this. I said, now you've been in the business for 3 months. And Maria, would you ever use this form again?
No, that was my answer. No.
No. She went, in fact, your answer was hell no.
I think it was that. Yeah. Heck no. Yes. Heck no. Uh-huh.
And I said, oh, why? And you said to me, because I didn't realize how much work a real estate broker put into getting a listing all set up, and then to not get paid for their work is terrible. We were
Yeah.
screwing those people and we didn't
Yeah,
even know it.
Yes, I felt bad after the fact of knowing that yes, I should have easily signed that exclusive from the beginning and not questioned it.
Right.
Hmm.
So, but you've learned.
I have, yes.
And you don't use it anymore, do you?
No, not at all. And I don't know, I have yet anyone to ever ask about it, but I would be like, no, if somebody ever wanted to use an agency agreement. Mhm.
Well, so we live and we learn, right? That's the way it works. That's the world.
And the
So,
crazy part about that is it seems like every time you were talking about that with a class, I would just always happen to walk in at that same time and you would pull me in.
well, that was Wednesdays. So I
Yeah.
remember I always teach that chapter on a Wednesday. And for some reason, Wednesday was your day in the office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'd see you hit that door and I'd be like, Maria, come on in. So it worked out really well as a cautionary tale for sure.
Yeah. And are you still saying that to this day?
Oh yeah, to this
Yeah.
day. Well, was it your son in my class last year?
Oh, yes, that's right. And you used me as an example. That's right.
I did. And from the background, you were in the background when I said to him, just ask your mom if she uses that. And from the background, I got, hell no.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
See, I don't forget about much
Yeah.
when it comes to my favorite students. So what I wanted to talk to you about is, well, there's a variety of things, as you know. But first of all, let's start out with, how did you get into real estate? Meaning, what was the thing that sort of drew you to this industry?
Well, so previous to getting into real estate, I own an insurance agency and I owned that for 10 years. And I think it was like around 2014, I think it was, I decided to sell my agency. And my plan was to take a year off after selling my agency. And that's when I had met Joe and we were dating. And I was going to take a year off, time to myself, kind of reevaluate things I wanted to do. And he's like, well, why don't you go get your real estate license? And I was like, oh God, no, I don't want to do that. Why am I getting out of sales to get into sales? Right. I was like, that's the whole reason why I sold my company. And then he said, well, that way we could have access to the MLS so we could find our own properties instead of using another agent that he was using at the time. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sell houses and show people how, I don't want to do that. And then, so then I was like, well, maybe not. Maybe that's okay. Maybe I will. I go, but only for you. Like, I'll do this just for us. I don't want to work with clients. That I was very, very direct about that. So I ended up going to your class and I ended up passing my license. And then I guess because I love people in sales, it was just like this. It was the same thing, just a different product, right? Sales and people. And it's just something I love to do. And I just naturally just fell into it. And I started showing houses and doing what I said I wasn't going to do. And I loved it. That's really why I got into it, was because he wanted, I don't want to say access to the MLS, but he wanted us to have access to the MLS to try to find properties to renovate.
So when you met Joe, is that what he was doing? He was buying properties, fixing and flipping them?
Yes, that's what he was doing. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it was sort of logical. Why would you use another real estate broker if one of you can do it and the other one can obviously do the work? Because Joe does the actual construction, right?
Yeah, he does the actual renovation of a project.
Right. So, and that's a pretty potent combination when you think about it. It makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, it really does. It was just at the moment, it was just like, I don't want to do sales, that's why I sold my business. But like I said, my year plan of it lasted a month. I couldn't do it.
You're going crazy, right?
Yes. Yeah, very much.
Now, at that point, you had 2 children, right?
Yes.
And
my oldest children.
Your 2 oldest children. And when you met Joe, or when you started in real estate, about how old were they?
Let's see. Nathan was in junior high, I would say, and Michael was in high school, probably just starting high school.
So very much,
Like, well,
independent to
yeah,
some
yeah,
degree.
yeah.
Okay.
But I remember taking your class, and I don't know if you recall, but shortly after I was about to finish your class, I ended up getting pregnant with the twins. I remember that was a joke. I was like, wow, my career's about to start and it's about to halt, because I think I got licensed in June, I think is when I passed, June of 15, and I had them January of 16.
Okay. So you were on your way already while you were in class.
Yep. Yes. And I do recall, while I was in labor, on my phone, still trying to like close a deal that we had like that Monday.
There you go.
Yeah.
Talk about being committed, right? So you started off doing stuff for you and Joe in terms of finding properties,
Mhm.
and then you say it morphed, it seems like fairly quickly, into helping other
Yeah.
people.
Into having clients. Yes, it did. I do remember being, pregnant, and then recently just had the twins. So I was forced for it to be more part-time, because I physically, I had just had, two babies. And then I recall, I think they were around 4 months where, yeah, it was a lot easier with them. And then I got pregnant again with Gia 4 months later. So it went like this again. So then I had to kind of, go through that selling and everything while I was pregnant with Gia and having infants. But somehow we managed to do it. I would say I was forced to still be part-time at the time, just because of having to be home with the kids. But then I had Gia, and I think at that point I was able to start working a little bit more and more and more, and working on being full-time more.
So, but you also had a support system in the house, because you had Joe and you had the older kids, right?
So the only way that worked was with a huge support system that I had. My mom, my mother-in-law, my older kids, Joe, us just juggling our schedules. I mean, I had a full village here helping me, because if not, there's no way I would have been able to do what I do, even till today.
Right. And so once you finally went full time, so it sounds like after about the first 2 years,
Yeah,
you sort of got into it more full time.
And one day it just went full force.
And can you remember what kind of volume you were doing in that first full year that you were doing real estate?
Transactional wise, I think I was like 24, 25 transactions.
Okay. So about 2 a month.
Yeah, 2 a month.
About 2 a month. Good.
And then from there, it just went from 2 to 4 a month to 5, 6 a month. And
wow.
Mhm.
And so it's been building up over the years.
Yes, definitely.
Excellent. And just out of curiosity, in the early years, how did you generate leads for yourself?
So one thing that I learned from the beginning, and I want to say it was from you, just from the things that you would talk about, I remember I was told to reach out to lenders, make relationships with lenders. I would go to events that I didn't know anybody at, obviously real estate related, and I would tell myself, make contact with 3 people. I recall this one event I went to. It was somewhere downtown. I didn't know anybody. It was some Hispanic business thing that I was invited to. And I went, and it was sponsored by US Bank. So I remember telling myself, I'm going to meet 3 lenders, 3 of the bankers before I leave. And I did. But there was one that I connected with maybe 5 years ago. And till this day, we have a great relationship, and he sends me a lot of business.
Really?
Yeah. So that's one thing that I've learned, is just making connections, going somewhere, at least get, a few names, and then reach out to them, talk to them, and we'll try to work together.
So you were very purposeful in your networking early
Yeah.
on.
Hmm. Yes.
And because again, I would say most brokers don't think of lenders as a source of leads. They think of lenders as people you give leads to.
Yeah, no,
Not,
that's kind of what I thought too, but you're surprised how many people go to a lender, like to a bank or a mortgage person and say, hey, I want to buy a house and pre-approved. And then they're like, I don't have an agent. And then that's how I've been I have a handful of lenders that we have great relationships, and we work, and obviously if I get a buyer who isn't pre-approved, then I'm able to recommend them to them as well.
right. It's a two-way street, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would tell you most brokers would tell you they think it's a one-way street. We give them leads, and very rarely does that
you
lender
would
give
be
you leads.
surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people are surprised to hear that. That's great. That's a great little tip, is get in with the lenders and start making friends and start making those business or professional relationships with them. Great.
Mm-hmm.
So then you started your business full time. You obviously got the kids. And then how have you grown your business over the years?
So my business has grown strictly off referrals.
Okay.
I would say 100% are referrals.
Really? You're not
Yeah.
generating leads for yourself, out there purposefully?
Well, organically, for example, if I've learned to use social media, I'm not great at it, but when I do post, I have had a lot of people who've actually, but you don't realize people are watching or looking at your stuff. I've had people from like high school that have reached out to me private and be like, hey, I've seen you've been doing, great. I've seen you've been successful at selling houses. I'd love if you could help me. So in that case, by using social media, that's been helping me out. But majority of my business has been from referrals, past clients, lenders. I've had relationship with home inspectors that send me business. One thing I did not know in the beginning of real estate was how important it is to make friends with other agents who are not from your company. I never really understood that. To me, it would be like competitors.
Right.
But what I did realize is that there were some agents that were just city agents that didn't want to come into the burbs. And I've made relationships just through networking and stuff that agents from other brokerages have sent me business because they know I do, whatever suburb. So that was something that I learned, and I didn't realize that was something valuable to have. Other agents from different brokerages that refer you business. I just always assumed they were just the competitors.
Well, like they could do it themselves. Why would they?
Why would you send it to me? But yeah, there's just certain agents that work through certain areas, and they would rather just refer it out and send it to an agent that they know that can do a good job with their client. And so yeah, that's worked out too. Which that one I wasn't. I didn't understand until I started understanding how important relationships were. Yeah.
That's a great statement. I didn't understand it until I started understanding it.
Right? Like why would I send it to another agent? Yeah, but yeah, no, it's worked out. And at the end of the day, it's about making friends. Doesn't matter where they work.
Right. And so just to follow up on that, how did you expand your network of other agents? Were you intentional about it?
From just going to events, accepting invitations to women events, and accepting invitations to private open house, broker open houses, stuff like that. Or just taking a class, for example, if one of the organizations was having a class of something, and then, you end up sitting next to someone, and then you just start talking with them, and then you start a relationship, business relationship with them.
So again, out there networking, putting yourself into situations where you could meet other brokers, other lenders, other people.
Yes. I've learned, networking, and even clients. I mean, I just from going to some event and all of a sudden like, oh my God, I was thinking of selling my house. Can I have your card? Just for saying, oh, hi, I'm Maria, so what is it that you do? And just starting a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that is one of the things that, I've seen you do over the years is just, just start talking to people.
Hmm.
And you have a very natural way of doing that. And I think people respond to that.
Yeah. And also too, one thing I've learned is I've learned not to be afraid of a no. In my head, I'm like, what's the worst thing that someone could say is no, no, thank you. Right.
Right.
So yeah, so that I don't have a fear of that. So maybe that helps a little bit, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and have you seen other people as you've gone throughout your career that have the fear of the no?
I what I've seen is like people having the fear of asking, right? So yeah, I have noticed that. Or how do I want to go? I remember there was a new agent that I was with at my brokerage, and I was like, "Oh, you should go up and go talk to that lender," and they're like, "Oh no, like what do I say?" So it was just like, just go say hi, go introduce yourself. So yeah. And after that, I do recall a couple months later, the agent called me and thanked me for that. She's like, I never would have gone up to people and just say hi, I'm so and so. Now I guess she does it all the time.
Right. Again, you got to learn, right?
Yeah.
That's the way
Mhm.
to learn, just by doing.
Yeah.
So you touched on social media for a minute. So I want to talk
Mhm.
a little bit about that because obviously that's one of the ways that people are generating leads for themselves or trying to generate leads for
Mhm.
themselves. And you said that, you do it, but it's not reluctantly, but you just sort of, like don't do it as much as you should do it. Is that a good statement?
Yes. There's times where I'm in like a beautiful house showing it and I walk out, I lock the door, I'm leaving, and I was like, "Ah, this would have been great to show people this house because of whatever the unique kitchen, or something about it. So I have to remind myself to do those little things because there's certain things that maybe a person would never see, right? If I didn't walk into that house, so stuff like that, or just neighborhoods, or things that I see while I'm out. Or I was downtown one day and I came across that big Katrina. It was in front of this downtown Michigan Ave, was this Mexican statue, and I had to
Okay.
stop and I recorded it. And a lot of people actually liked that. They liked it, and from that I actually got someone who asked if I worked in the area downtown, and I actually said I did, and I got a rental listing out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. And it was just from someone seeing my post. And it wasn't purpose for real estate. I just thought it was something cool to post.
Right. So are you getting more intentional about, posting stuff on social
Yes.
media?
Yes, I am. Yes. It's a great tool. It's free. You're free to post. It's free. And yeah, you just never know who's really watching what you're doing.
Right.
Mhm.
And have people, when they've either commented or called you, referenced your social media?
Yes, they have. Especially people from high school. Their private message would be like, "Oh my God, I've seen you've been doing great on social media. I've seen you've sold a lot of houses. Like, would you be able to help me?"
Yeah. And there you go.
Yeah. And
That's
just
excellent.
for posting just what I'm doing that day or where I'm at that day.
Yeah. I think a lot of the people that I've talked to in terms of who are out in the market today are just, sharing what they're doing so that
Mhm.
other people who may be watching can see that they're consistently in the business.
Yeah.
One of the things just a couple of days ago, you posted a closing for somebody, and I remember you're like, this is a really special closing because this person, whatever the story was.
Yeah.
And again, you seem to be pretty consistent in terms of sharing the wins of your clients.
Yes. I mean, they are wins. I mean, not every transaction's easy, right? I mean, if it was, everybody would be doing it. Some are very challenging. And I honestly was like, yes, we did it. We closed. So when I say I'm excited that we closed, I really am excited that we closed. Because, behind the scenes, things happen, right? Things come
Right.
up, deals seem like they can fall apart. And yeah, so when there's a problem and we're able to solve it and we're able to get to the closing table, I think that's a huge win.
Absolutely. And it's good that you can celebrate them and, even your success without, being like, hey, look at me. But
Right.
it's more that, hey, look at them and what they've accomplished.
Yes, and that's especially like first-time home buyers, I mean, or not even, or just people in general buying a home. It's a huge special moment in everyone's life. I mean, it's a big purchase. And to be
Right.
part of that, I'm grateful for being part of a lot of those successes.
Well, and so, it seems to me that you said that 100% of your business comes from referrals. So it
Yeah.
seems to me that that's one of the steps is you celebrating the win for them, with them,
Mhm.
and them going, well, who else do I know? Or when it comes up, you are the person that's top of mind for them.
Yeah. So one thing I have also learned is that like for example, with a buyer, you're spending a lot of time with a buyer. I wish it was a one and done, the first house they buy and boom. That's only happened, I think, once or twice in my career. But you spend a lot of time with a person or a family or a couple, and you start building a relationship, which ends up becoming a friendship. So I do have to say that majority of my clients are my friends, to the point that I'm invited to a birthday party or baby showers or just over for the housewarming, or um, they follow up with me, I follow up with them. For me, it's once we close, it goes beyond the closing table. It's not like, oh, it's nice meeting you, good luck. No, it's like, hi, I just check in with them. And it's not even like, hey, do you have a referral? It's like, oh, so, how was the move? Or did you ever paint that room? Because I pay attention to the things that we talk about in the whole process. So I've made some amazing friends that I would never have met if it hasn't been for real estate.
So do you have like a photographic memory, or do you have a system that you use to make sure that you keep all of your people straight?
So I keep notes. So, obviously you try as a realtor, right? You want to stay in front of your clients, right? You want to be able to, monthly or quarterly, whatever it may be. So I do all that. But I just do, especially because of social media, right? You keep seeing, because we're friends on social media, I'll see that they posted something, or I'll drive by, like, oh yeah, so and so was gonna, it just like pops in my head. I'll be like, oh yeah, so and so, her due date's coming up, I think. Does she have the baby? And I'll be, just things like that. And people appreciate it that when you reach out to them, non-real estate related, just hi. Or one day I drove by a client's house going to a showing, and I noticed that they painted their house. And I took a quick picture. I stopped and I said, hey, I was driving by. Oh my God, I love the color of your house that you painted. And I just kept going, and just stuff like that.
Well, that's awesome because, again, these are little things that the average real estate broker agent isn't doing. I mean, there is a sad stat out there that if
Right
you
about.
ask a buyer 6 months after they've closed on their home who their broker was or who their agent was, they would be like, yeah, I don't really remember. And that's not their fault. It's the fault of that broker,
Yeah.
right?
And I will say I can think of two clients that probably had fallen through the cracks, just because. And I want to say I remember one, it was almost a year that I had not reached out, and I felt horrible. I was like, oh my goodness. So I was honest. I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to touch base with you. I'm so sorry for letting so much time go by. They were like, oh, we're so happy to hear from you. And, yeah, everything's great. We love the house, blah, blah, blah. But I was more bothered with that fact that I hadn't, maybe they really didn't care, but they were actually excited. It seemed like they were excited to hear from me. So yeah, I mean, it was nice for them to remember me, like almost, a year later.
Yeah.
And I actually want to say they did send me somebody, which was nice. But maybe had I not reached out at that time, maybe they wouldn't have.
Yeah. You don't know.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Do
And
you,
also something that I do, I have it around. I have a piece of paper. It's like just not a spreadsheet, but I have names on there, like handwritten, that are people that I want to continuously stay in front of. And I keep it with me in my car. or wherever I'm out. So if I'm have a moment, I'll go through the list and I'll look at it and I'll text that person or give them a quick call. Because it's hard. It's really hard, even though, there's all these great apps out there and ways of, CRMs and all that stuff. It's just people that pop in my head that I'll be like, oh yeah, I want to reach out to them today, for whatever reason. And so that's kind of, I don't know if it's like an old school way, I don't know, paper and pen type of thing, but yeah, it's just a little thing that I do that it actually helps me out a lot.
Yeah. Well, again, that's unique in this day and age only because, most people are using their CRM systems to reach out to people. And I'm sure you are, like you said, you do monthly newsletters and,
Yeah, I do
whatever.
the traditional stuff that we should be doing, from that standpoint. But just for me to keep people engaged and or remember that, for example, someone was having a surgery next month, right? Things like that sometimes it's a lot it takes a lot more time to put it in your CRM or in your whatever it is to remind yourself to do something or your to do rather than just, like, for me, writing it down on a piece of paper on a paper and having that in front of me.
Well, again, it's whatever works for you.
Mhm.
And obviously it is working for you, because your business has grown year over year, right?
Yes, they have.
Hey there, Real Estate Roundtable podcast listeners. I want to take a moment to tell you about our sponsor, I Love Real Estate School. If you're looking to get your real estate license or fulfilling your continuing education requirements, I Love Real Estate School's got you covered. As an Illinois licensed school, they offer the state-required broker pre-license course, managing broker pre-license courses, post-licensing courses, and continuing education. And the best part, you can take the courses either through their live stream with a live instructor or online home study. So no matter where you are, you can get the education you need to take your real estate career to the next level. I Love Real Estate School is committed to helping you succeed in the industry. That's why they offer comprehensive, high-quality education at an affordable price. So if you're ready to start your real estate journey or stay up to date with your continuing education, head on over to iloverealestateschool.com today to learn more. So how'd your business do during the pandemic?
It was amazing. Actually, 2020, I was top producer of the brokerage I was at. People were just wanting to move like you wouldn't believe. It was crazy. It was great. Trying to navigate. Well, real estate was essential, right? We were considered essential.
Right.
So I recall, like, I can't go to the closing. What do I do? I've never missed a closing before. So I remember being in my car waiting for a closing for my clients to come out to congratulate them from a distance, right, with masks and everything. But one, I recall just waiting in their house while they were closing. And I remember doing a video there like, well, this is the new thing nowadays, right? We're sitting in a home while my clients at closing because I can't be there because of COVID, stuff like that. But yeah, it was a lot to navigate through because I know we were all over the place. There was a lot of clients. I'm sure I think all the agents were busy. It was great, but I know it was not typical year, and it was just something that was probably going to end at a certain point, the craziness like that. But it was a good year. I will say that.
So it took about 2 years for it to calm down a little bit. I mean, we had the big high and then, it was still, and then sort of we came out of it in, what is it? April of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then the market sort of stabilized a bit.
Yeah.
So what's been your experience in the market recently in terms of what's going on, the hunger for properties or not? What's been your experience that way?
Thankfully, I'm still busy. I still have clients that I work with, but I have noticed that Obviously, low inventory is a big problem that we're having right now. And the fact of buyers fighting over homes, I mean, it really is what was going on. But one thing I've learned is to educate my clients, my buyers, explaining to them what is going on, explaining to them about, the interest rate. It's not permanent, right? It's not ideal, but neither was a 2%. I don't think it was an ideal market either. So just educating and then learning those tools that we could use to potentially get a buyer to get under contract by, seller credits and buy downs and stuff like that. Try to make the process as less stressful because, people are just focused on interest rate, but understanding that, well, if we can get the seller, for example, to give you a large credit that can help you buy down the rate, that can help you get to where you want to be on, payment, that is something that has definitely helped me with my clients. And I want to say I've maybe had 1 or 2 buyers that didn't want to move forward, but everybody else, I've been successful of helping them purchase a home.
Have the sellers been more amenable to those things, or the sellers just like, nope, here's my price and this is what I want?
Yes, in the beginning, but I feel that sellers realize that they need to work with buyers in order to sell their home.
Right.
So yeah.
And have you seen the number of offers on a particular home? Are we still getting multiple offers out there?
As much as I would say the last 6 months spring market, I feel started a little bit earlier, but it was like that. I remember a couple months ago calling on a property, went to see it, and there was, it looked like it was an open house. It wasn't an open house, but that's just the way it looked. And I remember calling the agent because we were going to submit an offer, and I was just like, oh, are you able to tell me how many offers you have? She's like, 57. I'm like, oh, dear Lord.
Wow.
57, which is crazy. I was running into that a lot. I mean, 57 is a lot, but 10, 20, 27, I mean, 5 is a lot. I think 5 is a lot, right? But 57 was just ridiculous. But the last few deals that I just got under contract, there was no multiple offer situation. But I feel like the key is getting in right away, trying to make it a good offer. So but I feel like it's slowed down a little bit. I haven't seen it that much anymore. But there's a certain price point that you will see that
right
in this market. There's certain price points that's where a lot of buyers are at.
So you used an interesting phrase there. I want to make it a good offer. In your mind, what elements are you using to make it a good offer?
Yeah, because it's not always price, right?
Right.
It's not always price. Term. No, for example, one thing that I've been able to use is from everything I've learned from my husband through like renovating, seeing houses, seeing potential. I mean, I'm not a home inspector, but I can, see certain things where maybe helping the client understanding, like, if you want to go as is, this is what it means, right?
Right.
For example, it would be like, I don't know, this house, I mean, what if there's a lot of problems? So I'm like, well, we can take it as is. We do a home inspection, right? We go through that, and then you still have the effort. It's not like as is you're done. It's you still have the home inspection, right? And then at that point you can decide. And obviously if something major does come up, then that's something we'd have to address. But that as is has helped a lot, but as long as your client is educated on how that works.
Right.
Right. I would never ever recommend a waiver of a home inspection. I actually had one client, I think, that did that, and I asked them to sign something.
Yep.
Because I didn't want it to come back at me and be like, well, she never said, or she didn't say so. I mean, thankfully nothing happened with that home, but yeah, I just feel it's just trying to put something together for the seller. Also, too, one thing that I have done is the lender that I'm working with will reach out to the seller on our behalf. The lender's part, let the seller know that it is a very qualified buyer, that they are, solid and stuff like that to just kind of help, because we're a team, right? Our lenders are, part of our team. And so I do have the support of the lenders to help me, just if they have to make that extra call, just to reassure the seller that this, buyer's a good buyer.
Are they calling the seller themselves or the broker?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, the broker. I'm sorry. Yes.
All right,
not
the seller's broker. All right, good.
The broker. Yes,
That's
the
fine.
selling
It's
Yeah.
a good idea. That's why I want to make sure I got it
Oh
clear.
yeah, no. Yeah, so it's just,
What about earnest? Let me ask you, what about earnest money? Do you tend to get your clients to offer a little bit more earnest money?
Yes, I do. Explaining to them that putting in a larger earnest shows that you're more serious, potentially. It doesn't mean that you could, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to, like, what if I lose it, right? Or what if I don't get it back? And it's like, well, these are the things that would have to happen for you not to get it back. So it's just to show your commitment, right? Because if you have an offer that has $1,000 earnest and you're coming in at 10,000, that's more of a stronger that you're more serious about it. So I do that.
Have you done any of those letters? I mean, I know some brokers are like, don't send us any letters.
Love letters?
Yeah, the love letters. Have you done that?
Yes, I have. It was during the pandemic. I did have a few clients that, because they would know about it. A lot of our buyers are educated. They know things, right? Because they read up on like stuff. And I did have one that particular that he wrote a letter, and boy, was it good. It was good. The people did end up choosing them, and I submitted it, and I told them, listen, they don't have to read it, right? But I do know that the listing agent told me that they would love to have a family like that in their home, because they had been owners for 20 some years, and they would love to have a young family in there to, make it their forever home. However, I have seen nowadays it's like no love letters, will not. Yeah. So it's not a thing anymore. And I obviously understand because, it's because of
fair housing.
Yeah, that we don't want. Yeah. So when my clients ask me, I'm like, no, it says no. And I said, if you do, like, I won't even send it in because it says no. We have to be respectful of the listing agent's instructions. Mm-hmm.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do know, again, of agents who've been successful,
Mm-hmm.
Submitting them and having their clients get that property. That's great. But
it worked. It was a great tool, but it obviously, because it was being used so much, right? I mean, it was a thing to do.
Right.
Obviously it was, because didn't they change the contract? They did something, the listing agreement, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They made changes
put in there because of that. Yeah.
Right. They had, I mean,
Yeah.
again, people were like, well, wait a minute. Somebody's picking this person based on their story. And really, it should be based on the terms of
the contract. Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Just, if I can get a client, if we can get a client to qualify for conventional, I'm going to say there has been a handful of listings I have had that I've seen that would say no FHA. And I'll look at the pictures and I'll be like, why? I wonder why. So I'd call the listing agent up and ask, like, I'm just curious, why wouldn't it qualify? And a lot of times agents would be like, well, I just don't think it would pass. And my question would be like, but why? Like, what is it that you see? That is there a hole in the wall?
Right.
Is what is going on? And I remember one where she was like, well, like the back stairs, they have the paint from the deck was like chipped or something like that. And I was like, that's it? Like, okay. We got under contract and we actually handled the chip paint and we were able to close.
Yeah. So again, as long as it's done before it's closed, FHA is fine with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I remember presenting to the listing agent. She's like, well, just my client just doesn't have the time nor the money to invest in that. And I said, oh, complete. So he said, if we were to go under contract, and it's something I feel that would be an issue. If it's okay with obviously we got it in writing from the seller, it was okay. I sent Joe over there
Right.
to,
I figured that's who you sent.
he fixed it, and then we passed the appraisal and we closed. And like I said, and if we don't and something happens, we just helped out your seller. You're welcome, right?
Right.
For the next one.
Let me ask you, what about appraisal gap waivers? Did you do any of that stuff?
Yes, I did a few. Those honestly made me nervous, because if it was like I'm putting my client in this potential position. So this no limit one, I was like, oh my gosh, it really, really scared me. I think I've had, no, actually I have not. I'm thinking as a client buyer's agent, we've always put a cap on it.
Right.
I've just told, like, if there's got to be a point that it's not, like, don't want you guys to like be house poor, you know what I mean? Or to like regret paying whatever it is, 50, 60, 70,000 over asking just because. So I do recommend putting a limit, right? Like, you got to love this house up to a certain point. And what's that price point? And we've lost some. And a lot of my clients have been thankful, like, thank God we didn't go over, whatever it was. And there's been plenty that we have won with that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's got to, go ahead.
No, but I'm just saying with that, I do feel like if my client just wants to live in the house for a couple of years, absolutely not. Like, no, no. If the purpose is to be a long-term home, then I think it's worth doing if it's that home that you really want.
Yeah, again, I think by capping it, because too many times I think it's an education issue with buyers, is that they don't understand that whatever you buy it for, if that appraisal comes in less, the bank, especially if you're getting a loan, the bank's going to give you based on that appraisal price, which means you have to come up with the difference in the money.
Physically come with the difference in addition to your closing costs that you were going to pay originally, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that, because I just had this happen. One of the brokers that I've worked with, her clients had this offer. They're like, we want to make an offer. And the broker said to me, the seller's broker said they've already got an offer at full price. So you're going to have to come up over full price. And so, or what full ask is what that was. Right. So she said, we're going to go 10 grand over. And I said, aren't your guys doing an FHA loan? She said, yeah. I said, so you need to understand that FHA is only going to give them, the bank's only going to give them 96.5% of what it appraises at. If you go 10 grand over, does your client have the extra 10 grand if it doesn't appraise? And she goes, oh,
no,
I don't think so. And I'm like, well, you can't go 10 grand over then.
Yeah. I've even asked, when I've had clients who have said that they want to submit higher, I'll even call the lender and say, if we do this, will it dip into the funds that they were using to qualify? And sometimes I've had a few where they're like, oh my God, you cannot go that high. You can't. And imagine had I not, and I'd be like, okay, sure. And all of a sudden we get it. And then they really can't because And I just feel that if people, out of the desperation, buyers of just trying to get the house, they'll be like, okay, fine. Yeah, I'll go 20 over. We're not really understanding that you literally need to bring an extra $20,000 over if it doesn't appraise, So I've been educating people, making them completely understand and following with the lenders to make sure that it's a possible scenario if we needed to, execute that.
What's interesting is that these people are like, well, we're qualified for $50,000 more. So 10,000 is not going to be.
Yes. On your loan. Yeah. It's not that you can just, I've had people where they're like, well, if I'm only looking for 350, but we still have 50,000. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. I wish, right? But no.
Right. We'd all wish that, but no. So that is an education issue. So it's good that you've been able to educate your buyers, and especially with the cap.
And also, one, I do have to say too, also, in today's, that's usually the way that it is. But I want to say in the last 6 months, I've had 3 or 4 buyers of mine that our offer was an attractive offer enough for us to go under contract, but where they came into like some positive equity. I had one in their appraisal came in 37,000 over our purchase price. It was huge. It was huge. Right. I just had another one 15,000 over. I've had one 17,000 over, where they walk into instant equity. And I think that's amazing. I mean, that is huge. But the 37,000 one, I was like, wow, that was great. So
You didn't share that one with the seller, did you?
no, absolutely not. Yeah.
Hey, by the way,
Yeah.
just so you know.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's also people, what I'm trying to say is in this crazy market that we're in, yes, a lot of people are, I'm going to say overpaying. I don't want to say overpaying, but paying more. And there's some that are really not, that, just depending on the offer, and that they've actually walked into some really good equity.
That's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
It really is. Again, so many times we run into sellers that I mean, I just had somebody not that long ago who thought it was 2 years ago and they wanted to come out on the market and they're like, I'm going to get 72 offers and it's going to, and we're like, you're overpriced.
Yeah. I recall getting a potential client in Burr Ridge. And we all know Burr Ridge is a very nice area. And it was over $1 million. This guy, I want to say close to 2 million, 2.5 is what the seller was looking for. And I remember seeing the home and like looking at the area, and I was like, there's no way. Like down the street, there's a brand new renovated home for that price. Excited as I was to get this potential listing, and this seller was so specific, I want this price, and that's it. And I remember declining the listing because this had been, I think she was on her 4th agent because they had not been able to sell.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be the 5th.
Right.
So I remember thinking like, gosh, this sucks, but I don't want to just repeat the same thing. Like, I didn't want to be looked at like, oh, I lost a listing. It was overpriced, which it was. And so
did it eventually sell up? Did it sell?
I actually looked it up and she went into foreclosure.
Oh.
Yeah, I kept tabs on it. Yeah.
See, I do the same thing in terms of if I'm not going to do the listing, I want to see what it did sell for. And invariably, when it sold probably right in the range of what I told them it was
originally. Yes. Yeah.
Right. And you want to call them up and go, see, I told you.
Yeah. But that one, and I was hoping she would have sold it. I mean, it would have been, but I looked at it and it, for whatever reason, I don't know what made it go that way. I mean, obviously we know something, obviously she went to foreclosure, so the payments weren't made, but I don't know what caused that to happen.
Right.
Because that was, I just remember potentially getting this listing and being like, oh yeah, actually no, but I had to think about it and be like, no.
Dodged a bullet with that one.
Yeah. So it's not always about that, big ticket listing.
Right. It's got to be people who are going to be taking your advice and understanding what the market's telling them. I mean, if somebody's over the market by, 2%, whatever.
Well, I've had people that I'd be like, okay, we can try it for, 2 weeks. And if it, or whatever, right, a week or whatever. And if not, we are doing this. We need to reevaluate it. But as long as you have a game plan, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. You got to have a game plan going in. The seller's got to be amenable to the game plan, and you got to stick to it, because if it's not selling, there's a reason it's not selling. And
right.
It's
usually it's price. Yeah. That I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you too, are you and Joe still doing flips and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Okay. So how's business been? I mean, obviously you had some boom years.
Yeah, it has. We just did one in Naperville. We closed in May. We're looking for another one. So in the meantime, he's working on a commercial project that he picked up. So just shifting gears just a little bit until we find something, because there's not a lot out there and it has to make sense. But yeah,
Right.
we're still doing it.
About how many do you do a year? I mean, if you were just to give me a ball.
Um, I'm trying to think. Last year we did 3. You have to remember, he does them. Him and my oldest son is now part of it, so it's them doing it themselves. So and obviously with the way that things have been in COVID was no material,
Right.
lack of this, yeah. So it was very challenging. So even in that time, we were successful enough to continue through, but they did take a little bit longer.
Excellent. So that generates a certain amount of business in terms of, are you selling them through
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got a sign in front and
Yeah, sign in front, agent owned, or yeah.
yeah. Excellent. And when you get people that call about those homes, do you end up getting other clientele that doesn't buy that particular home that you can sell them something else?
Yes. So through the sign, that is something great because people are driving by. And yes, I have picked up the one in Naperville, for example. They drive by, they'd ask for the price, and someone would be like, "Oh my gosh, we didn't realize it was that much." So then I'd start that conversation. Well, what is it that you're looking for? Where, and stuff like that. So yeah, I've actually been, and again, that's free advertising. It's free marketing, just putting your sign up.
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And
And then,
also, we've actually picked up. Joe's been able to pick up people who've been wanting their home renovated or updated through seeing the work that has been done in that home.
well,
Mhm.
that's cool. So that
Yeah.
helps Joe's business as a contractor.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's fantastic. Well, again, look, the power couple, man. You guys got it. That's the way you want to do it. And then lately I've seen you sort of getting more. You talked earlier about networking, and lately it seems like you're tapping back into your heritage. Is that a good way to say that?
Yeah, I do have to say, since day one that I've been licensed, I've obviously I have a whole variety of clientele, but when it comes to people of my heritage, Latino, Hispanics, uh, it's something that I love to work with and help, because I have run into a handful of families that never thought that they could buy. And when I would sit with them and we would have a conversation, they were able to buy. They were actually ready. They had everything needed, just didn't really know that they could. So those have been huge wins for me, just to be able to help someone who thought they couldn't and get them into, having a part of the American dream of owning a home.
Right.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
But
And
yes,
so,
I have been working on some things within my community with to help my Latino community around here.
what kind of aren't you on the board of a particular group?
Yes, so I'm actually the president of DuPage Hispanic Alliance. We are a Latino. Well, what we're trying to do is bring education and culture to the non-Hispanic Latino community, just to try to bridge that gap, to be able to have more presence here in our areas of our culture.
Got it. And so what do you guys do? Give me an example of something that you guys do. Events. What do you do?
Yes, so just this past Sunday, we sponsored the kids area at the Aurora Puerto Rican Festival. They had about 5,000 attendees, or over 5,000 attendees. It was a nice event. So we had our own space. We did a community art. So we had this big drawing of Puerto Rico. It was kind of like a picture story, and we had all the kids help out and color it. We let them make like bracelets for like with Puerto Rico colors and flags. We had tattoos. And that by doing that, we were able to talk about our organization with everybody that was at the festival. And we made a lot of great connections, people through the state, through the county. People were asking us, what do we do? How can we be part of this? We would love to contribute and volunteer. For example, we're going to be in Naperville at the library. We had a meeting, and we're going to be in October doing an ofrenda. which is something that people do in Mexico. I'm
What
not
is it
Mexican.
called?
An ofrenda.
Okay.
Did you ever watch the movie Coco?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was, remember they had that altar looking thing with the pictures and it had,
Oh, yeah.
so we're going to be doing that display at the Nichols Library just to educate what that is, right? The significance of all that is, because a lot of people don't know what that is, right? And it's funny, I'm being Ecuadorian, we don't do that. And I really didn't understand it. So it was just a great education thing. And we think it'd be great for the community as well to just learn the traditions of other cultures, the Latino and Hispanic cultures. Being here in Naperville for the last 20 years, it's nice, for me, it's nice to see these things happen now.
Well, that's great. I got to tell you, I don't know that I realized that DuPage as a county had quite the population of it. So it does.
It does. And it's funny because there's a lot of Hispanics here, and my younger kids are in dual language here in Naperville. And I have connected with so many families because of this program. And it seems like there's all these little communities. There's just not someone to bring them all together. So I've actually met a few Ecuadorians, and I never knew there was any more Ecuadorians in Naperville, and I was so excited. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're Ecuadorian. But I would never have met them had it not been through the connections of these communities. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. And so by helping your community, by working within the community, you are in fact, kind of extending your brand.
Yeah.
Because people are going to go, well, what does she do?
Obviously, yes. So what I'm doing with this organization, it's free, right? It's just my time I'm putting into it. Has nothing to do with a business per se, but obviously when I'm talking to people, people have asked me, oh, is this what you do? And I'm like, no, I'm actually a realtor. So because I am, right? And so
absolutely.
at the Puerto Rican festival, I actually did pick up 2 people that are looking to sell and 1 to buy. They're like, oh my God, I was looking to sell. So I was like, yeah, here's my card. So obviously those are opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's not my goal, but it's definitely a huge plus of just letting people know what I do for a career. I do this because I love it, but this is, I do this because it's my career.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and again, there's nothing wrong with it because again, you are using your time, which is valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's taken away from your business. It's taken away from family time. Mm-hmm. But you're doing it with the right heart, which is a servant heart to be able to get the communities together. And then, a byproduct is people know who you are.
Yeah. And something I've even talked about doing is doing like a buyer's workshop, something through the organization, something like that. Obviously, I met someone from the DuPage housing where they had, asked if it's something that, I would be willing to do. So it's something that just happened organically. I wasn't, trying to promote myself, but it was just the conversation with the right person. It's just another avenue for me to potentially get more business.
Excellent. Excellent. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give somebody coming into the market today, a new person coming into real estate today?
I would say that try not to be the normal agent. One thing that has worked for me, I feel, is I've learned to become a problem solver with my clients. It's worked very well for me. I feel that it's a tool that a lot of agents don't have, in my opinion. I feel that it's just something that will help you learn and grow to just be that agent that stands out in the crowd. My advice to them would be to surround yourself around people who are influential, people that are successful, because I do feel that you could learn a lot from agents, for example, who know the business, ask questions, ask to shadow. I just feel you need to be able to absorb a lot from other people, from other agents, if you work in an office, brick and mortar, be there, listen to if an agent will let you, sit with another agent, more seasoned agent, and listen to the conversation, listen to the potential objectives, right? When you're talking to a client, not being scared of a no, right? Don't be scared of that. I also think that learning to have a mindset is big.
Well, wait, what do you mean by that? Tell me what you mean by that.
Okay. Today was a bad day, right? You didn't get that deal or whatever. Tomorrow is always another day. Try it all over again. Setting your mindset that I could do this, right? It's powerful how being positive helps in this business. Because here, I'll share this. I would say last week, I had one of those days where I literally was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. It was just one of those days, but I told myself, you know what? Tomorrow's another day. It's going to be an awesome day. And today's almost over. Like, you just have to be a go-getter. You just have to be like, okay, I got this. I'm going to do this. It's a mental game. I feel like you just have to be strong. You have to not be scared. As a new agent, that's scary in itself, right? When you're out and stuff, but going up to that person or that lender and asking for their information, you just have to be open to new things that you're not used to, right? Talking to somebody.
All right. So, Maria, you and I spoke before the podcast, and you've agreed that we could put your information in the show notes. And so if there's any of our listeners or people watching on YouTube that would like to reach out to you, if they have any questions, you told me you'd be fine having them do that, right?
Yes, definitely.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you doing that. Certainly, I've had other guests who people reached out to and, been very helpful to. I think with your experience in being, a broker now for 8 years, being a mom who's been a broker in this business, being somebody who's done flipping in this business, and obviously working within your community, I think, you got the whole package, sister. You got the whole thing going on. And that's been one of the things, or the package is what impresses me as I see where your career has gone from our class to, where we are today. And I know that you work hard. Nothing comes easy to anybody, but, you and Joe have made, a great life out of what you guys do. Your family, awesome family. And, obviously it's contributed to your success here in this business. So I think that is to be commended and applauded because, you're out there killing it, sister. And people can see that.
Oh, thank you. I what I tell people, I just love what I do. I love helping people and what comes with it, like the commission, all that's secondary to me. It really is just about, I really do like helping people. And I love the real estate world.
Well, and it loves you back. That is obvious. So,
and having a great teacher like you was, that.
Oh, stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. No.
No, but there's been plenty of times. How many times have I reached out to you and just asked you questions? I'm like, hey, I have a question. And it's great to have someone like you that really has helped me navigate through this career. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Of course, all of my students know that they can reach out. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. And, all my years of experience, sometimes it's a fast question. Sometimes we've bounced stuff off. You're like, hey, let me bounce this off of you. And sometimes just hearing it from a different perspective.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely. Just, or like from like the edge, from a teacher standpoint, like a scenario, like, what was that again that you said about this scenario? Right. Because, I love everything I've learned through your class, but honestly, in the outside world, it's just so different, right? Textbook versus real life in real estate it's night and day.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I tell people that in class, it's, we have to teach you what we have to teach you to get you past the test. But when you actually get into the field, you're going to learn that you're using maybe 20% of this stuff.
Yeah.
And even that, it's not true to what's going on in actual life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time today. It's been a great conversation. I think you've given our listeners some real things to think about and some tactics to take. And I appreciate, again, thank you so much for doing this. And I want to wish you continued success.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on your podcast. Thank you, Art.
Of course. Thanks again to our sponsor, I Love Real Estate School. Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing from our amazing guest and you picked up some valuable tips and insights that you can use in your own real estate business. If you liked what you heard today, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you more great content in the future. And if you're an agent who's interested in coaching, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me directly through my website, myrealestatesalesmanager.com, or connect with me on social media. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you the next time in the Real Estate Roundtable podcast.